Well, I'm probably one of the few Boltolian Scottish people in the world, so let's just pretend we did that and move on. If we can all agree between us that it was a great Energizer session and we're all up for this, that would be great. Today we're going to talk about building an employer brand in a complex and diverse business. I've got to start with a thank you straight away, a thank you for Neil for participating, and share another little secret with you is that Neil isn't really here. Neil is actually participating in a social media workshop at King's Cross right now, and he's nipped out for an elongated toilet break. So many thanks for doing that. He will be here for questions immediately after that, but then he's going to have to dash back. So in terms of praise, thanks very much, mate. Really appreciate that. And I'm going to hand over to Neil, who's going to talk you through his part of the presentation.
So to start with, a little bit about me. I'm the head of recruitment at the Place of People group. I'll talk a little bit more about the group in a moment because I'm guessing there's probably only even a handful would be optimistic people who actually know who we are and what we do. We've got 18 years recruitment experience, both external and internal. So I was on the dark, horrible side before, but now much nicer internal side. Held loads of different roles. I've put systems in place. I've been a business analyst for a recruitment business. But as I say now purely on an in-house role. However, up until 12 months ago, I'd never, ever been involved in employer brand work. I've been sat where you guys are on loads of these kind of things, listening to people talk about how important an EVP was, an employer brand, etc., but never really got to the point where we could actually run with something until about 12 months ago. And as you can see, Simon picked this picture. I have no idea where from. But yeah, I like dressing up in little clothes and getting on roads and getting in cars' ways. So now I've won the room over, I'll move on. So who are we? Who are Place of People Group? We are one of the UK's foremost placemaking organisations. We are, as our chief executive likes to say, we're more markets than Virgin. We have about 20 different businesses and 20 different brands inside the group, and we do everything from development work, regeneration work, property management. We've got a leisure business. We have a charity called Places Impact that do a lot of work with a lot of the communities that we work in. We started out as a social housing provider, and that's our main core part of our business, but we've grown hugely since then and been through a huge sort of cultural change, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Our vision is to create places that work for everyone. As I say, yes, we're once a housing association, but now a commercial property group delivering lots of different services you would not believe. We are incredibly acquisitive. We're growing all the time. As I say, I think this slide mentions 20, but we're about to become 21 as we're in a sort of, we've just bought 50% of our business and we're working on a joint venture with them into a new area, but all within property. But above all, what we try and do, we've got commercial heads and caring hearts. So we are a commercially focused business. We do make a profit, although we're not for dividend, but we do so about creating places that are sustainable and that work for everyone. To give you a quick synopsis of the size of the business and the complexity, we've got, actually it's about 12,000 employees now, over 12,000, 130 million profits, 123 leisure facilities. We've just gone through an exercise through our ATS to consolidate a number of things, and there are actually 340 different sites that we've got throughout the UK. So it gives you an idea on sort of size, scale, and breadth of what we do. So, employer brand goals and challenges. So when I sat down with my new director of people to have a conversation around employer brand, what were the things, the sort of burning issues that were sort of bothering me when I was looking at things from a business point of view? So there was a understanding that we really needed to unify what is a very disparate employee base. So we've got businesses all working within property, working in different sectors and elements of property. Don't necessarily, so the leisure part of the business hasn't got very much to do with our private rental sector, sort of housing management business, for instance. And again, as I've mentioned, we have 340 odd sites from Scotland all the way down to Cornwall. So huge geography. We wanted to connect people with the group and not just their division. And with all the acquisitive work that we'd done, there was definitely a sense from the business that people, they knew that they worked for a company, but didn't really understand what the rest of the group did and didn't really see themselves as being group employees. We needed something that was flexible. So with a broad range of roles that we have, we wanted to be able to recruit anything from a 16-year-old kid who wanted to do sort of earn some money as a lifeguard at a weekend, right the way through to architects, fund managers for our PFP capital business, contact centre staff, gas fitters, trade staff, the whole gamut. We were also launching a new corporate brand at the same time, so our marketing department were running through that, and we needed to make sure that whatever we did chimed with the new corporate brand. And we also wanted to make it future-proof. As I say, we're growing, we're acquisitive, we're working on loads of different things. We need to make sure that what works now will work in 12 months' time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time, so we're not having to reinvent the wheel every 2 minutes. On my side, my challenge is I wanted to build a sort of positive employee reputation in new markets. So again, quite often people don't know who we are. And I know on the recruitment side of things, I have to explain to anyone that I try and headhunt who we are and what we do, because not many people have heard of us, even people within the sector. So if we speak to someone like a Persimmon Homes or a Bovis Homes employee, they're not aware of who Place of People are. Or alternatively, they may have myths. So they may think, oh yeah, I've seen your vans driving around. You guys do, you're a housing association. No, we're not actually. I'm having to explain all this. So we wanted the employer brand to really build on that and as I say, slay those myths. We wanted to build an internal reputation and centre of excellence, and also the way that our group works is that nothing's mandated, so all the different businesses have a choice whether they use my internal recruitment service or not. So we wanted to create something that was compelling as part of the offer, not only to give great service and do a great job on the internal recruitment side, but also give something else to the businesses to say, come and use the internal recruitment side, but we'll also then be able to give you an employer brand and build what we've got up. And obviously all the standard stuff, target hard to reach talent in a talent short market and all the other stuff that all you guys already all know about. But more than anything is we needed something, and we were really clear with this when we went out and spoke to a number of different employer brand specialists. What we wanted to do was ensure that we had something that would work for us very quickly, because again, I'm sure I don't need to tell you guys, in recruitment things move like that. If you start saying, oh right, we need to recruit X, and then we have to go off and speak to an employer brand person to create this, that and the other, and then get marketing to double check it. It can be like a week or so. Well, that manager wants CVs within that amount of time. So we wanted something we could turn on straight away that we had control of. And because we're a large business and because we've got a marketing department, they also wanted to have some input into this because they saw it not only for attraction, but also for internal comms. So they wanted collateral that they could own, that they could then use internally so that they weren't, again, having sort of beholden to some outside agency who were controlling every bit of messaging or collateral. I'm going to pass you over to Simon.
Thanks. Thanks, Neil. So I wanted to pause and show you the journey that we undertake with many clients. We don't always start at the beginning, but actually, in this occasion with Neil, we did. We started in our discovery phase, so that's really uncovering exactly what are the messages that we can say about this organisation, and we moved into create. But the most important piece, and I think this goes to a lot of the conversation that's happened today, is that we took time to embed and educate people, the internal stakeholders, about the brand before we moved on to the activation phase. And what also marked this particular piece of work out was the fact that marketing had engaged with us from the beginning. And that proved to be really, really successful. The then head of marketing started off and moved his position quite a lot during the process. He started off saying, well, this brand's really got to support my brand. My brand's the primary brand and yours is the secondary brand. And during the process, he actually began to shift his position to say, actually, do you know what? This brand is people are going to encounter this brand far more than my brand. This is almost, didn't quite use the word primary brand, but he thought it and didn't say it. So he gave us the latitude then with which to create a brand that was symbiotic and supportive. And that meant that when we were educating, it meant that we already had the stakeholders included from marketing, from L&D, from all the different employee touch points, so that we were able to activate the brand both internally and externally. And then we began to measure. So I think it's been said a couple of times that perhaps you need a different organisation to do some research and different organisations bring it to life. Well, I'd argue against that. I'd say the people that have been there listening and hearing your stories are absolutely the right people to bring your stories to life and to help you share them with other people internally and externally. So, how do we approach this specifically? I'm with a bit of a creaky stage here, Tash. How did we, it's not my bones, honestly. How do we approach it for, specifically for Neil? Well, we wanted to do some research, and we did undertake all qualitative and quantitative techniques, focus groups, stakeholder interviews, lots of engagement at multiple different levels. Remember, the complexity of this organisation and the cuts of the data that we had to satisfy all the different MDs, that this was actually the golden thread that we established was accurate and authentic, was quite extensive. So we did the research, and it was all about building that authenticity, making sure that we did capture the real employee experience, but also that we ensured that the brand was going to be differentiating from all of Neil's talent competitors. And you think about the different markets he operates, boy, has he got a load of talent competitors. So the other tests that we put a brand against is it fit for purpose? There's been a little bit of talk about aspiration versus authenticity. And that's a balance, that needs to happen in all brands, so that when we worked here, we had to make sure that it was fit for purpose and it was future focused, because this organisation, it's a bit of a cliche, but change is a constant within this organisation. It will grow, it will evolve. It wouldn't surprise me at all one day to see this become £1 billion turnover organisation. So we had to make sure that we were future focused and we weren't just reflecting the current employee experience, but we were attracting and retaining the talent this organisation needed to keep its customer promises and fulfil its organisational ambitions, because that's the essence of an employer brand. If it's not doing that, it's not working for you. Then we had to make sure it came to life throughout the full employee life cycle, that it worked right across the organisation, but right from when somebody started to think about joining the organisation, through the candidate journey and conversion, right through to when they're an employee, so they engage with it, and thereafter. And then this activation piece, this embed piece, where we had work streams and pledges from the internal comms, from HR, from L&D, from line managers, marketing, because that's the key to activating your brand. Neil cannot do this on his own. Whilst he's asked us for a great DIY toolkit, and we'd say we've given him one, he still can't do it on his own. And resourcing, the employer brand is not about resourcing. It's about the relationship an organisation has with its current and potential employees. So it's about making sure that we're activating through all those work streams and getting stakeholders to play their part in that. So, specifically, we developed what we call a people deal. So a people deal is the psychological, emotional contract, the emotional connection between employer and employee, but it's mutual. So it's the handshake. It expresses what we call the give and the get. It talks about, yes, we will give you this, but we expect that in return. There's been a lot of talk about culture, and culture really plays a strong part in people deal, because obviously you want people to work in a way and live in a way that their behaviours align with your culture. But the people deal was the first part, our jumping off point. And then we created flexible people promises that would be able to be dialed up and dialed down, dependent upon the level, the audience, and a third level would be then the division, so the 20 divisions that worked across there. We had to convince the 20 MDs that this spoke to their people and their prospective people. But what we uncovered more than anything else was these unifying behaviours, which is why culture's been quite a strong thing today, I think, is that, as Neil said, that all the people here were commercial but also had a social purpose. And this began to get us thinking that, this is what really made this organisation different. Scale made it different, ambition made it different, commerciality made it different, but also this caring heart, this trusted ability, and the fact that they were both corporate and local, and they were determined and energetic. And they looked at things. This made them look at things through a different lens, through a different angle, and we wanted to capture that in the employer brand. And we did that by creating the brand essence, which is called A Workplace Like No Other, which strangely is black rather than blue. Okay? I hope that doesn't transpose to everything else. So a workplace like no other describes exactly, and we'll go into more detail, that this really is a unique place. It's the place for jump right in people. And as you can see from building this brand, we wanted to create this flexibility that was always going to have the place for and these people, and then the ability for the recruiter or the divisional MD or the line manager to then really hone in on the behaviour that was most important to them in this role or this division. But the photography is always taken from that unique, different angle, because that's how they look at life, look at work. The place for changing lives people, for ambitious people and determined people. So we wanted to create this emotional connection, and the great way of doing that through video. So we commissioned and built and storyboarded and then filmed a video with probably the most detailed storyboard we've ever done. It took an awful lot of planning, and Neil and his team were instrumental in doing that, as well as the marketing team. We went to God knows how many locations and saw God knows how many people, voiced by their people for authenticity. And that was to showcase both the scale of the organisation, but also what made them different and unique as an employer. There were multiple cuts. So I'm going to show you a long version. We did an internal and external version, and there were multiple cuts for social media that are being deployed across the thing. So here, hopefully, will be our first video, or the longer video.
We're placemakers, all of us.
Together we're proud to create places for people.
Building sustainable communities that meet the needs of everyone today and tomorrow.
Our workplace is the community.
It's where we provide affordable housing,
Manage properties.
Leisure centres to stay healthy.
Beds for homeless people.
And accommodation for students.
A place for everyone to call home.
A workplace like no other, where we all share the same spirit values.
We're a mix of friendly,
can-do,
Have a brew and get things done people.
We push ourselves to perform at our very best and look at new ways to do things even better.
with a place for ambitious people and the ones who want to make a difference every day.
We think creatively and commercially to change people's lives.
We offer exciting career development across our diverse pioneering business.
And our boundless ambition gives you all the challenge you could wish for.
Above all, we're a team that cares about our customers.
Our places.
And each other.
Everything we do, from building homes
to helping people live independently,
Is changing lives.
Here you can aim higher and jump right in.
Curious minds and bright ideas will be listened to.
And you'll be trusted to do the right thing and always do your best.
every day at Places for People, we work together up and down the country in all kinds of roles to make a real difference.
We click, we hammer, we knock and we move.
All to the beat of the same drum.
to create better communities with heart and soul.
We're ever changing and have even bigger plans for the future.
And it's all thanks to our talented people who make everything possible. The best is yet to come.
Are you ready to play your part in a workplace like no other?
But as Neil said, the important thing was to create this DIY toolkit for his team, because you do get multiple requests, all actioned at different times, all more important than the last one. So we created, as part of this, a whole suite of support for Neil and his team. So there are over 100 images, there are over 50 pre-agreed descriptor headlines, and the whole brand is created in such a way that it can be deployed really quickly and really effectively. So we've also deployed it in such a way that it can reflect slightly and subtly the individual division. So for example, leisure, they're orange. So it can apply that. And that, believe it or not, was one of the things that we had to give to the director of leisure, just to give him that independence. Well, it doesn't make a jot of difference. It actually reflects on the brand better. So I'd like to hand back to Neil, who's going to give you some up-to-date examples of exactly how it's being deployed. Actually, before I do that, I also want to show you this picture of Neil as well, because it just shows how everybody really got involved and perhaps enjoyed the photo shoot a little bit too much now.
Yeah, let's get that gone. Yeah, so yes, we've now started to use the brand. It's we launched an initial internal launch, but also an external launch for sourcing. The first time we actually used this was with our executive hiring. So basically, this is our number 2 in our organisation that we've been recruiting for. And one of the great things was we had a conversation with the board because there was a big thing of, do we go down the headhunter route like we always done, or should we use the internal team because you've found other directors for us, and we were able to roll this out and say this is the kind of impact we can have. So we put a half-page advert in the Times. We were all over social and boosting posts and sponsoring various things, and we even used it in creating a candidate pack for the executive director post, which again had the workplace like no other essence through it. We're also using it, as I say, on social channels. So this was a role that I put on last week for a painter, I think it was. But effectively, yeah, so it's eye-catching with the blurb and the link through. Place for big ideas people for an IT role that we've got. Customer focus, so we recruit quite a lot on the customer service centre. So again, activating it through that. And the internal launch. So the internal launch is coming in 2 parts, I guess, really. So on the right-hand side is our microsite. So when we've launched and we went live a few weeks ago, we created a microsite for all our managers, so managers could understand what the people deal was. We were really critical that if we started going out externally and saying we're a workplace like no other, and guarantee that the first interview that's going to happen after we've gone live, some candidate's going to say, I've seen that you're a workplace like no other, what the hell does that mean? So we covered all of that inside the people deal, all of that inside that microsite around an explanation for managers, some collateral there, understanding what the people promises were and the people deals, try and bring it to life. What we're also working up, and we'll be going live within the next couple of weeks, is a full campaign inside within the business. So we've created banners that will go in the majority of our major sites. We're also creating lots of different activation words, so all the words that you saw, the job well done, dive right in, etc. People can then hold those up and have photographs taken, and they can be uploaded automatically into the intranet. So that we can get people really involved in that side, as well as a competition around why we are a workplace like no other to really engage staff. What have I learned? It's been 12 months. Perseverance is really key. If you do start on this, what I will warn you about is there'll be more stakeholders than you could possibly imagine. People who just pop out of the woodwork here, there and everywhere and saying that they want a particular colourway or they want particular imagery and this, that and the other. And you do have to bear in mind that we are working with their brand. We are the shop window for their brand. So we have to make sure that everyone's engaged. External activation, I've got to be honest, it's been much more straightforward than internal. We know what we're doing as recruiters. We know what works, what imagery, what messages we want to put out. It's just changing slightly what we do on a day-to-day basis. The internal activation has taken a lot more time and thought and effort to work through, and our marketing department have been great at working through that and has agreed with a few ideas and supporting work that they've given us. But above all, Exciting Design does win the day. All our senior leadership team have been on board with this. In fact, we've already got their photographs with the words all ready to go for when we do the full campaign launch. People see the value in this, and when they understand what we're trying to do, we've had that positivity and that drive forward. It's just they've always just wanted it slightly differently, but we've got there in the end.
Thanks, Neil.
Excellent. Thank you very much.